We are officially live.
Awesome.
It's alive. Oh man. So I recently talked about Planet of the Apes, so I probably won't bring it up again for a while, but I did finally watch the new one, the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
It's on Peacock or something.
It's on Hulu. I'm not sure where else it is, but that's where we ended up watching it.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet. I'm gonna check it out soon.
Was Hulu. Yeah, no, it was good. Some of the things like took me out, like broke the what's it called?
The canon?
When it takes when it takes you out of the suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It took me out of that suspension of disbelief because it was supposed to be a 200 to 300 year gap. And some of the stuff that it did, I was like, yeah, no, that wouldn't have be like some of the stuff that it showed of what humans had created. I'm like, that wouldn't be working after, 200-300 years. That's not how this works.
You're way too much of a nerd. If something worked, you took you out Talking Apes movie, okay, Joe? All right, but I'm ready now.
What? Hold on.
What?
They had
time to start the show.
They had a bunker.
You a professional nerd dad?
just go.
No, seriously, what'd they have that break? No, I was kidding. I put a note in. We'll talk about it after.
Get ready to laugh out loud with Wise and Nerdy, the show hosted by two hilarious dads who bring their unique blend of wit, wisdom, and nerdiness to the airwaves. From sharing hilarious anecdotes about their own experiences to giving advice on navigating the ups and downs of life, these two dads have got you covered. But that's not all. They're also obsessed with all things nerdy, from comic books and sci-fi movies to video and board games. So whether you're a fellow dad, a pop culture fanatic, or just in need of a good laugh, this is Wise and Nerdy. And now let's have some fun.
Hey, Mike, I'm not ready. Can you start over? I gotta look something up real quick.
Stop with Ippity Dippity.
What was that one? Skippity Dippity? Is that what you?
Stop with Ippity Dippity.
Oh my goodness. That brings up an idea that was brought to me today. But I want you to know, much like Sesame Street, today's show is brought to you by the letter Scotch and the number 7. The number 7 being Jack Daniel's Bonded Rye 100 of the Scotch I'm sipping on through this episode. Man. So do we even have a question of the week? We don't. So
yes.
let's talk about, do we?
Sure. We always have a question of the week.
Okay, this is not the thing. All right, well, you posted out because I don't know what to start with there. Here's an idea that was brought to you. You know what? Here. I think you'll like this, Joe. It's just an opening question kind of discussion, right? Some of my employees at work find me hilarious, and that's why they get raises every year.
That's just because you pay them.
And hey, I'll take it, man. I'll say, oh no, I cannot answer that one tonight, sir. You put in what's the worst thing you did as a kid? I can't. Nope. We'll say that one later. You're
like, no, not tonight. All right. Well, then you pull the audible. No. What's the new question?
So it's really kind of an idea, right? And apparently I make random sound effects and noises, especially when I'm frustrated. And they're like, you need to sell that. I just want some clips, like a 30-second clip of the stupid random noises you make and the sounds, and because it cracks me up, and that would be like my alarm to wake up to. And so I'm thinking about doing that, and it's like, oh, that reminds me of I don't remember, it was some anime I was watching where the main character, every time they wake up, which is maybe once a show, there's an alarm, and it's all this cutesy Japanese J-pop. But it's like, oh, time to wake up, Bobby. You gotta go murder people. And I
gotta go murder people.
Right.
Candy Mountain, Charlie.
It's so random, though, the way they say things. Like, it's time to get up so you won't be depressed. And you're like, what did you say? And the character just never hears it. They just hit the they hit the alarm and walk away. And I think it's it might be a an anime you and I both watched. I don't remember, but I did that voice and they were cracking up like that. I need you to do that so that I can put that as my alarm to wake up. I'm like, what was that? Oh, okay, Jose, wake up because guys are going to come and smash you. And she goes, oh, I'd wake up happy. Like Charles yelled at me. I'm the happiest. So what do you think, Joe? Should we start doing like that skippity dippity or whatever the heck I said in that clip? Should we start making those MP3s? And as a patron, you can have them at a certain level, or you can go to like a website and download it for $1.
I mean, I've got these all saved as MP3s because that's what the Go XLR wants.
I didn't ask you if you had them say anything. What do you think of the idea?
Oh my Lanta.
There's an alarm. There's a notification. We get a text message.
Ashamed of me.
You know what? I think we should do it. I think we should make these available to our patrons, and also possibly, like I said, put it on a website to where you can go spend $1 or whatever to download the pack. And then I want to be like out in public somewhere, and somebody gets a text message, and I hear, "Oh, my daddy's ashamed of me," or whatever it is you say there. Like, wait, I know that. Where'd you get that? I don't know. I just downloaded it from the store. And
then the next person gets a text, and it's all,
"You got my Cheese Whiz boy."
So, to the people out there, the thousands that download this show every week, if you have certain things that you like, certain things that make you laugh, we're open to it. Was it wnnShow@gmail.com? We've had so many Gmails over the years. wnnShow@gmail.com and say, hey, would you do this in this kind of voice? And it's not going to be good. And it's not like, do your best Christopher Walken and say, yo quiero Taco Bell. Yo quiero Taco Bell. I mean, see, that's as good as it's going to get. All right. It's not going to be great, but it's going to be fun. So, what do you want to say? What kind of things will you put in? Will you start saying phrases from your favorite anime, Joe? What are you going to
do? El Sai Congru. It's from Steins Gate.
I was about to say, did you understand? I mean,
no.
Oh man, I have been off of Crunchyroll for like a month now. Not intentionally, just been busy. And when I have downtime, I'm glad you just reminded me, because tonight, like when I shave or do different things, I like to watch my TV that I don't have to focus on, right? That would be a lot of the animes I watch, because it's off to the side. I can see it, but I'm not having to sit there and understand it. Steins Gate might not be one of those, but you just reminded me I have Crunchyroll, so I can, because I was like, man, all my Below Deck shows are done right now. I watched The Mole season 2 on Netflix, kind of dumb TV. That's not dumb, I mean, but it's background noise, if you will. Empty TV, not MTV. Empty
TV.
Yeah.
Empty TV.
One, where's Kiddo? Where's the random kiddo? Why is he not here? What is going on? 2, Kurt will be here. He's stuck in traffic for everybody who is on the podcast and listening live. He will be here shortly. You can just calm down, stop the rioting. It's fine. But until then, it's all Mike all the time.
Roll that dice.
All the dice.
Of course, before you tell me what that is, this is going to be in one of the first pack, and we'll do a pack. You'll get like a number of MP3s in the pack, but this is going to be in the first pack for sure.
Yep.
That is an original recording from when I had that board that you have, Joe, and we were doing Pokemon Go podcast, and I knew it was coming, and I held down that recording, recorded you live on the show doing that. Guard got the hashtag wrong. It's shut up, Joe. That's her hashtag. Her hashtag.
Oh man.
Yep.
Thank you for agreeing, Joe. I mean, I wouldn't go against my wife like that, but
Yep.
All right, man. You gotta be careful. So what do we got? What's the dice?
What are you nerding out about?
All right. You know what? You threw in a name that's fairly familiar, but I can't place it.
Yeah.
What is it you're nerding out about? Who is that?
Brandon Sanderson. He is an author, best known for the Mistborn books, if you've ever heard of those. Or he finished the Wheel of Time series after Robert Jordan passed away.
Okay, you've talked to me like on a pre-show or post-show or something about it.
Yeah. So I have been contemplating working on a book. I've got a lot of thoughts on different plot points and characters and things like that I would like to put onto paper and see if anyone else likes it. But it's a creative outlet that I would like to explore. And so I reached out to my cousin, my wife's cousin, because he's written several books that have gotten published. And so I asked him, when you were getting started, what were some tools or some different things that you would like, what's some advice that you would give me for as a potentially aspiring author? And one of the things that he mentioned to me,
oh, you're not asking me. Okay, fine.
Is Brandon Sanderson. He for years he has been doing a creative writing class at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. And about 4 years ago, he actually recorded his lectures and put them up on YouTube. And so there's a whole bunch of lectures of him and Robinette, the author that you...
Mary Cole Robinette?
Yeah, so she was
one of my favorites.
She was a guest instructor for a couple of those lectures as well, specifically to talk about short stories, because Brandon Sanderson does not do short stories. And so she came in to specifically talk about some of the strategies for writing short stories. But it's been a very informational lecture series that I've been going through. I'm about 2/3 or 3/4 of the way through it. Each one is they're all, it's quite long. It's a long series, but I've also been listening to other authors' advice on YouTube on pitfalls and things like that, having to do with aspiring authors. But one of the things that really stuck out to me was, regardless of what information you get, as far as breaking into getting published, that you're going to have to talk to someone who just broke in, because that is a constantly changing thing. So like when Brandon Sanderson first got published, self-publishing wasn't really a thing, but that's actually a big thing nowadays.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit. Yeah.
And so yeah, he was like, it's completely changed from when I got published, and the advice that I kept getting was completely wrong for my time as well. So he said, as far as that goes, he's not going to be very helpful, is what he openly admits. But as far as writing in and of itself, he's got a lot of great advice for upcoming writers and how to frame your, I guess thought process isn't quite right, but how you think about it analytically, the breakdown of what makes a good story versus what makes a mediocre story, and things like that. And so it's been very interesting to me, and it's definitely evoked a lot of internal thinking on where I would like this story to go that I've been contemplating. And my wife put in the chat, because I've been talking about this, my two older boys actually asked for a notebook to start writing their own books. So now they're writing their own little stories as well. Because I told my boys when they first expressed interest in writing, I was like, did you know that the author for Aragon, Christopher Paolini, he started writing Aragon when he was 15. And so I'm like, it's never too early to start if that's what you want to do. And so we'll see how far they get. But they've each written what they consider a prologue for their stories, and they are already fighting over who gets to use what character names and stuff like that. So it's been rather cute little discussions in my house this past week about their little stories.
So is my favorite fan, little Jebediah, going to write a book of all the amazing things I learned from the Rock Hour podcasting, including not pooping my pants? I know it's a really long title, but we'll work on it. I'll coach him. Is he going to do that now? Because I think it's good.
So he doesn't know how to read and write yet. He's just barely starting kindergarten, but he does want a notebook so that he can take his own notes as well. What those are going to look like, I have no idea, but I think it'll be cute to find out. So
We shall see.
I think mostly
We
he just
shall
wants a
see.
notebook to be like his brother's, but
Yeah, watch him turn out to be the best. The best there never was. There you go.
But yeah, so this past week has been interesting for you on several fronts, both
You can say that.
personally and an anniversary. So what are you nerding out about?
So you were actually part of both of the things that I have down inadvertently somehow. So last week I talked about T-Mobile and said T-Mobile will do better. I still stand on that, but I gave them a chance to do better, and they did. They should have done quite literally done better out of the box, in my opinion. But as just a recap from last week, in case you didn't hear it, I've tried out the T-Mobile internet, right? They're pushing that across the United States pretty hard. I like my T-Mobile service with my phones. Their customer service has been fantastic in the industry compared to everything else I've had over my career of having cell service. And I did a lot of research, as Joe has been happy to point out many times, that my Comcast doesn't, sometimes it fuzzes out and everything else. And so I just got to the point where it's like, I want better internet. Well, Kurt, you're not gonna get ready before you get on camera. You just be flat. There's an MP3 to download. We'll catch up on that. How you doing, buddy?
I'm late.
Okay, so come here, Kurt. Nobody knew until you said something, buddy. It's
False!
okay.
You told everyone.
Yeah.
Joe.
This isn't my first rodeo.
So right now we're in the nerd.
Stop with ippity dippity.
We're in the ippity dippity nerding out section. So if you want to throw, although I think you're probably going to talk about the game you recommended to me this week, but whatever you want to talk about, I'm telling the story of T-Mobile and how I was trying out their internet, as I talked about last week. Just a recap, and it just didn't work, right? And we talked about that at length. We even talked about it more after in the Patreon, and I ended up just putting it off for a few days, and someday this week, I don't remember what that was, I ended up calling the number and saying, hey, I need to deal with it. And T-Mobile definitely has customer service outside the country. But I will say every time, Ring Central as well, working with them as a separate company at work, same thing. Everybody's outside the country, but everybody on those levels are very professional. They speak very good English. The only thing is a little bit lost in translation when you're trying to give context for something. Other than that, it's actually been really good. I just have to slow down, be a little bit more patient, and try a different way to communicate in a few instances. So ultimately, I'm on one phone on hold with T-Mobile while they're trying to fix my modem that's in a box out in the backyard, sitting right next to me as I'm smoking a cigar, sitting on hold. Joe calls me on the other phone. And so I was like, yeah, I might have to get off the phone real quick. Anyway, back and forth. He heard it all go down. They convinced me to stick with him a little bit better. And here's how T-Mobile did better. Like I said, dialed the 611 number, told them my situation, told them it just wasn't working. And they kept trying to say, oh, we need to do Tesla. Look, it's not hooked up. I unhooked it like 4 days ago. It's in a box. I was just calling to return it. Like, well, if you don't mind, and I said, you know what? I'm in a good mood. I understand part of your job is to keep me here as a customer, but I'm also going to tell you, I love my phones. I was surprised at how it didn't work. And I would like to give you a fair shot. I would like to really test this out and give you a chance. So it was about 40 minutes on the phone while they did things and came back. They said, okay, go back in, plug it back up. We'll call you back in 30 minutes. I said, well, give me an hour because it might take me a little bit longer to hook things up. They said, okay, an hour. I went back in, hooked it up, and instantly it did a firmware update. And then it reset itself. Then instantly it did a second firmware update and reset itself. I'm like, okay, all right. And then after that, it was stable. Plugged it in, just went right into my mesh network and tested it on my wife's computer. Speed test instantly. I'm just make up the numbers. I don't remember. It's like 400 down and 70 up. got on my Netflix, instantly it opened, which was one of the things that wouldn't work before. It was smooth as crap. Went to my Roku box. It does a basic speed test. It's not a real one. And Roku went, yeah, great signal. 170 MB, whatever their number was. So there.
Right.
Came out to the studio, speed test. Told my kid that when he went out to stream, said, hey, dude, push it. Do everything you can. Watch your stream back later just to make sure, see if it didn't lag. And honestly, every speed test has been almost the same no matter what device. Hardwired, Wi-Fi, mesh across the board. It's about 400 to 500 down consistently and 50 to 70 up. So I'm happy right now. And we still have a few more days of seeing an issue. The very next morning, I guess it's Monday, because I think Tuesday morning, my wife called me and said, the internet's down. And I was going to talk her through it because I'd left the Comcast and everything just hooked up. All they would have to do is unplug one cable, plug it into the other. You're done.
Right.
And I was very disappointed in hearing that, but she wasn't able to. She was not available to go through it. So I called Oakland. Turns out the power strip tripped for some reason. So we took it off the power strip, put it directly into the wall instead. Hadn't had an issue since. So
good.
So, and then last night, I got to celebrate. Man, I never stopped smiling. I got on at like 7:30, and until about midnight, I was just on cloud nine. Where I got my start is a show called Two Guys, One Brain, and back in 2004, I started doing segments for them. And 20 years later, and they did 500 episodes, and I was on most of them as a producer of segments and those kind of things. And I was on their last show that they referenced last night live. I was always a big part of it. I became and stayed a big part of their show. And then that launched my digital media career, basically. So 20 years in the making, they came back on with me. And my buddy Kevin Destruction, Kurt, you'll like this part. So Kevin Destruction, who also helped me get my start back then, we did stuff together. He wrote and performed the song from the Helicarrier, that Avenged song.
Oh, yeah.
That's him. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I reminded him last night that we used that song on that show. Brian Ibbett and I used it for 4 or 5 years, however long we were on. And so like thousands of people got to hear it and stuff. And he was just blown away. And it was such a good time. Joe came out. Kurt couldn't be bothered. It's okay. But no, I give grief. It's recorded. It's on the YouTube channel, DC Digital Media Track. It's out there. I've got it, the audio recorded. I'm gonna put it as a podcast. It is rated R, but as Joe pointed out, most of my life is rated R, so that's to be understood.
Yep.
But it just the enjoyment I had talking to them again, just. Phil pointed out I didn't stop smiling the whole time. Hugh called me right after, and we spent another hour and a half because he was there in the early days, and he's a huge fan of all that stuff. And we just geeked out for another hour after that. It was possibly one of it was possibly one of the most fun experiences I've had in my career in a while.
That's
the most fun experience I will have is when I don't have to set it up myself and somebody else does that for me, but that's okay. but that's mine, Kurt. So you brought Disney's Balto back, and then you want to talk about the magicians and Ember the god.
Yep. So I'm in on this kick right now, but it's casual games meet roguelikes. And so I mean everybody agrees that Slay the Spire is just an awesome game.
Yeah, I re-downloaded it the other day on my Xbox Game Pass on my PC.
Yeah. So and it is a great game, but there's this game that released a few months ago called Balatro, and I talked about it a little bit before, but it's a poker based roguelike deck builder, which sounds completely bizarre, but it's completely engaging and compelling. And
we see you on Discord, and like tonight you were awake because obviously you were in your car, but it says Kurt's away playing Balatro.
It's because I never shut it down. It's like always there. So the cool part about it, the dude who wrote this, one of the coolest things is when you go to start a game, it allows you the opportunity to put in a seed for the random number generator. But what that allows you to do is play with other people using, it might be the third time. I don't care. It's great.
I know it is, but we don't stop you because it is exactly what you're nerding out about right now.
But the cool thing is like you can enter pretty much any 8 characters and seed the game's random number generator. but it allows you to do things like little competitions with other people because you all start with the same deck and you all start with the same layout and everything. And then what
I
you
don't
make for
understand this. What seed? What is?
so random numbers, the way that they're generated is typically, and Joe understands this from a programmatical standpoint, but typically you can generate random numbers based on an initial number seed. So the seed is kind of the thing that plants the random number.
Okay. Sure.
Which
Go
is
ahead.
why in most video games, gamers will find a way to rig the RNG.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Because it's
Yeah,
not
all right.
it's not
RNGesus, that's what
truly
you should say.
it's not truly random.
Never. Yeah. So but this one, they're transparent about it and they say, okay, here's a place to enter the seed. But what's really, like I said, what's really cool is like on Discord, I did it with Phil and I did it with a couple other guys, where you go in and you both bring up your game screen and we go, okay, so we're going to use for a seed this week Rock God. And you type in Rock God, and then you have exactly the same game as I do. And the only difference is how we play.
So we type in the same seed, so we have the same. Okay.
You have the same cards, you have the same layout, you have the same prize
So it's
pool.
playing together without playing together.
Correct.
Oh, okay. All right.
And you each make, because when you play cooperatively with somebody, you go, oh, I would go right, and they go left.
Yeah.
Well, you can go right. And you
And
can
they'd be
see,
like, "You messed up, you
Yep.
jerk."
Yep. And so when I'm running these little tournaments, and I've just started doing it, but when I'm running these challenges, first person to beat the game, which is 8 rounds, and if you get to the end, a lot of times you don't get to the end, but the first person to win the game wins the challenge.
Okay, so I did talk to Phil about this slightly.
Yep.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm over here and I barely make it to like the 4th round if I'm lucky." And Kurt's like on round 98. What's the end?
What it is you go through 8 rounds, and once you hit the 8th round and you beat the 8th round, then technically you've beaten that level or that deck. But then it goes into endless mode, and you just keep going as long as you can, and generate like just crazy numbers if you can.
Balloons. Balloons. I do that on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's very cool. And honestly, once I'm going away this weekend, but once I get back, and frankly during my recovery from my surgery, I'll be if I'm up to it, I'll be starting to run some of these Balatro challenges / tournaments in Discord.
Okay.
So for people who own the game is $15. All right. So
Well, in this economy, that's half a carton of eggs.
yeah. Okay. Fine. But I get more enjoyment out of it.
We've talked about that, of course.
So it's a pretty cool game. But in playing that and watching YouTube videos about it, I've run across this other game called Emberward. And Emberward is a roguelike, tower defense game. And I've just dipped my toe in it because I don't want to get sucked into it like I'm sucked into Balatro.
We dip.
And so what it is it's a regular tower defense game. However, you do 2 things. You put guns and turrets up like you normally would in most tower defense games.
And you build with Tetris pieces?
You build the path with Tetris pieces. And the Tetris pieces are what hold your guns and turrets and things like that.
This promo video on
Okay.
1.2 hex speed or something? It's fast little video.
It's a fast little game too.
Okay.
And so
and it looks like, just as a side thing, it looks like there's a demo for free available on Steam for it. So
there is. So but what's really cool about it, and the roguelike aspect of it, is they put down these power tiles, and you put the Tetris pieces on the power tiles, and those float to the top of the Tetris piece. And then you put your turrets on those power tiles to activate that bonus.
Okay.
And it is crazy.
Yeah, we're playing the demo on the stream right now. So if you watch the YouTube video, you can see, or go to Steam like we did and look at it.
Yep.
You see it. But yeah, I see the glowing boxes there, the power. Is it really this fast, or is the demo sped up?
I think. Well, I think you can make it faster. It's not. The initial one, at least at the very beginning, it's not that fast. But the reason I brought it up at all was because I know that Charles loves tower defense games.
I really do,
and I know you play a lot of Bloons, and look, Bloons is awesome. Like, I played the crap out of Bloons.
Yeah.
Just Super Monkey Ball or Super Monkey guns are just like crazy. So yeah, I really do enjoy a tower defense game, but it's a tough balance because some of them are too hard. Like, they get too hard too fast. And so it just sucks the life out of it for me.
And Random Kid asked, did we get a sponsor? Because we showed the video and everything. Yeah. No, but thanks for mentioning that, Random Kid. We're open to sponsorships, and we are, as long as, and we have to like it, right? Because that's the heart of what we do, is we talk about what we love. We discuss what we're struggling with, those kind of things. But yeah, no, I'll give that a shot. That I do like a good tower defense game. And funny story, Joe was talking about writing books and asking for help, and he mentioned our friend Mary Cole Robinette, who I got to interview last year and hang out with at Chattacon, which we'll be going back to this year, as will Tara Burton. But Mary Cole Robinette, she wrote, I think voiced some of it, but she wrote the story behind the DG2 tower defense game that I first played on like PlayStation 3 network, and that was one of my first tower defense games, and loved it. So we got to talk about that at the con. It was a lot of fun. So no, man, that's cool. I will definitely look at. So okay, I'm just going to ask you for the rest of the year, stop playing games. Stop finding games that you want me to buy, because I want to buy them, and I got a lot of things to do, man. It's not the money, it's the time.
Right. So if you're going to buy one of them, buy Balatro at this point. It's it's that good. And yeah. You only have to be into poker a little bit. It's kind of like Yahtzee, where you have to just kind of understand that Yahtzee hands are poker hands, and that's kind of how it works.
And in 2025, Kurt is going to start Balatro Anonymous.
No, I'm not, because they've already announced a game engine update in 2025.
Oh, okay, so 2026.
That's fine. Yeah, let's see how this goes. What was it? Knob Creek, Animal Island, Dr. Moreau's Island. What's the show you and Phil did? Dr. Moreau's Crazy Animal Island. Something.
Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing.
Yeah, sure.
Nook's Tavern.
Yeah, we'll see how yeah, we'll see how much you play that.
You know what? Animal Crossing. We didn't fail Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing failed us. No, Animal Crossing did not come through with their promise, and that was they told us that they were going to have updates for 3 years, and in essence, they had updates for 1 year. Any meaningful updates for one year. They kept the game going. The game's still going, and they come up with a couple little cosmetic things here and there.
Money grabs,
but hardly money grabs. That's the thing. They didn't even try to monetize very much.
Oh,
it's just it was just it wasn't great. They did try to monetize with one add-on DLC, and I had already bailed by then. But Animal Crossing, solid game, hit at exactly the right time at the height of COVID, and just you know, sold better than almost any other Nintendo title.
Well, because of the timing. It's a game that we never would have bought probably in this house, but because it was COVID and because we had some cash to spend, my girls wanted to play it. Like all three, my wife and two daughters all wanted to play it. So we did. And I think my wife played it the longest because she was collecting for everybody, but everybody gave up on it. Yeah, type of deal. But
Roll that die.
Hey, while you roll that dice, we're going to need a guest on the show August 22nd, I believe. I'm double checking that date.
Yes.
Yeah, August 22nd. Joe is going to be out, and I believe somebody who listens religiously to this show offered up their wife for whenever somebody left. So I'm sure I phrased that incorrectly, unintentionally, but that's how I remember it.
Okay. I'm
not making that up. This is not a bit.
bit.
There's somebody. I'll let them call themselves out when they hear this show.
I'm
going to
say that would be Shane. Shane offered up his wife for the show.
No. That'd be, you're talking about Shane Burton, right?
Yeah.
No. What was the dice, Joe?
Daddy, tell me a story.
All right, Kurt, I'm going to preface this for you. Joe was like, hey, do you want to bring a story? Because I was prepping some other things, or because you want me to pull one out and said, hey, if you don't mind, I'm riding a high from last night, just sharing stories from 20 years of podcasting and the beginnings and all the different adventures I've had. So I thought, I didn't know what time you get here, one time the same would come up, but I thought, Joe, if you wanted to ask a story of something from 20 years, I've worked with all kind of crazy people. I've done some fun things. I've been on some crazy stages. So that's what the story will be here tonight. So you two can toss out some ideas or ask some questions. What you got?
What's
Great
your most
question, bro.
embarrassing story?
Oh, most embarrassing story from
in your
podcasting.
past 20 years of podcasting?
That was just weird timing on the rip of that paper towel. I mean, it sounds like a ripped one. I'm thinking like that wasn't me. That right there is my most.
All right, Shaggy.
Yeah. That's a tough one. Okay. All right. So when I first started podcasting, okay, wait a minute. Random Kid says 20 years. What a boomer. 20 years would be Gen Z at this point, not boomer.
Not even close to boomer.
He's a funny dude. We had a rule in my house. My wife, nobody, of course, in the world understood what podcasting was in 2004 and 2005, except for the people like myself that are forward thinking. It resonated. We just want to get our voice out there. We'll figure it out. And so everybody had their own set of rules that were arbitrary. But in my house, once my wife realized I was going to be doing it a lot and really pushing this thing forward, it's not going to go away. About the time I started bear crawling, she was like, "The only rule is I can't talk about our sex life." Because she's like, she first tried to say, I can't talk about her. And like, yeah, you've met me. That ain't going to happen. The whole reason I started bear crawling, and that's the show that I really started running on, was because I needed an outlet. I couldn't talk to my parents. The Hallmark shows, right? They show, hey, Dad, what'd you go through when this happened with you and Mom? I didn't really have that kind of relationship to ask. My best friends weren't even married at the time. So I felt like I had nobody, but I knew I was statistically not alone. So I just needed to dump all my trauma, everything. But I kept some names out of it. I mean, the wife, right? And she went by the Wifager for the longest time. Oh, that's a good one, Random Kid. We'll get that up. And she went by the Wifager for the longest time. And she said, oh, you can't talk about herself. Okay, that I'm down with. And then I made a rule for myself saying, I will tell a story about the story. Because if it has details that I leave out, it's because it's not my story to share. So like if Kurt and I had gone through something real heavy together and I'm telling something I learned from it, I would say, look, the story is not mine to share. I'm not talking about that, but here's the things here's the basics you need to understand. And here's what I'm taking out. So the embarrassing part was year or two in to doing the show. At the time, is a room above the garage that we had. That was my studio. And I remember sitting there and we're doing a special Saturday afternoon hangout with all of my fans, which was like 5 at the time. But we did an afternoon. So England, Ken could be there, who's literally, his name's England Ken, he lives in England, and different people like that could come on, do a live connect. And you got to understand, nowadays we can get on Discord and just hit a button and be together, Skype, Zoom, everything. That was not there. So not only was I doing live, I was able to set up a way for people from other countries for free to connect in and see me and talk to me and hang out. And so my wife joined me for that. And she's sitting there, and the first thing she does is I don't remember what it embarrassed me so much because I was always like, that's the rule. We don't talk about it. And I'm not that kind of guy. I don't really share that part of my life. And I don't remember what she said, but the first thing she did was talk about our sex life. Like instant. I'm like, what? I mean, I got red. I was like, what are you doing? The rule is I can't talk about it. She goes, that's your rule. I'm like, you're never coming on a show again. Not ever. This is so yeah, that it embarrassed the crap out of me. It was crazy.
Sounds fair.
Random Kid says, who is the favorite guest you've ever had on a podcast? I'm gonna say it's Dan Carlin.
I was gonna say I could answer that.
Yeah, it's not Kurt Booten.
Yeah, it's me. Yeah.
So who'd you say? You kind of mumbled Dan who?
Dan, no, I saw Kurt come forward and I just cut my answer off. Some are consummate professional, Joe. You can learn from me and Kurt. All right, Kelsey. I don't know how you put up with it.
Exactly.
I don't even have it queued up. Yeah, I almost had you. I can't.
Yeah, don't even have it queued up. You consummate professional.
Hey, he's supposed to be hitting the buttons now, and he's just want to be like skippity dippity.
All right,
stop with dippity dippity.
So the favorite guest I've ever heard on a podcast, Dan Carlin. He is well known for hardcore history. He's well known for a show called Common Sense. He was a writer for the LA Times. Many people will not know his name, but he really is a big founding force in podcasting. And what I loved about him is multiple things. But first was, I just had no idea of what fear was back then. No idea of I can't. Now, sometimes I'll get in my own head and get my own way and go, well, if I ask him, blah, blah, blah. And I'm trying to get back to those days of going, just ask, who cares? And he came across my radar because at the time, he was probably one of the biggest. It'd be like getting Joe Rogan today, okay? He was one of the biggest podcasters, both in the podcast world, but also the real world, because he's one of the few people other than like Leo Laporte, who I've also had on my show, who was big name that was doing podcasting. And Dan Carlin, I just reached out to him. Somebody said one day, he's like, oh, he's a really cool guy. He's doing all this stuff. He's like the king of podcasting. I went, well, that sounds cool. Hey, Mr. Carlin, I did this show called Bear Crawling. This is what I do. This is how at the time it was Bear Crawling Nation. I was doing it by myself, and I had segments. It was an hour and a half show. 30 minutes was one segment of questions with a commercial break, and then a second 30 minutes of a different set of questions, and a third segment. I don't remember what segments were anymore. That was a long time ago. And he was like, yeah, I'm cool. So actually, before we even got to that format, I had him on Bear Crawling was just a random stream of consciousness with some people on it sometimes. It was mostly me. And he's like, I'm down. And so first major interview I ever did minimal research. And I mean, it really, if I could go back and find those episodes and play them, you would see how I walk onto a stage now and talk to celebrities. Now, I still do my research on the celebrities. I'm never going to put myself in a place where I don't know what I'm talking about when I'm doing it for somebody else. But when it's for me, I'm all happy with, I didn't do research on purpose because I want to get to know you. And he just treated me like a consummate professional. He just played with me. He had fun. He engaged, and he remembered me after that. And he came on 2 more times, the last time being the final guest I ever had. Guess what number? It's between 200 and 400. Guess what number I did my final show on?
300.
So you're closest, Joe, but I drove the world crazy because it makes my little chaos brain happy.
299.
298. 298 was my final episode. Because I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I'm moving on to something else. But he was my final guest. And that's when we did the 3 segments. And the third segment was just talking about the journey and me just going, hey, man, moving on to other things, doing this and that. I've really loved. But I got to ask you, kind of like I did last night with you guys. I ask you, why me? Why did you say yes and continue to say yes? And I'm sure you've done a million interviews, especially now at this point. Why did you even remember me? Because I feel like I'm just this clown. And it kind of was on purpose. You think I make a brand out forgetting things now. I was a bit of a fool then. And he just talked about how as creators we're here to help each other. And because I asked, and because I actually have a lot more talent and insight than I think I have. And the rising tide, not the rising tide, he waves. He talked about waves because we're going through waves of podcasting, and I've watched you stay on top of that wave every time it's come up and it's crashed and it's taking people out, and you're just on the top of the next wave and the next one. And I feel like you're right there with me. And this guy, man, I wish I remember what year it was. I don't know, probably around 2010. He went to the Pentagon and the White House because they called him in to advise on certain things that they were doing with the military that had to do with his expertise. And he got to share some of that on Common Sense. Common Sense was the only political show I've ever listened to because it's literally what it means. He would talk about the truth between the left, the truth on the right, and like bring it more as a moderate towards the middle and really talk about how we need to think about things. And he actually agreed with me because he's the first person ever told on air that I don't believe in voting. I feel like it's wasting. And he had a very good talk about it, but he agreed with this aspect of it before I just burn the house down and freak everybody out. He said, I was right about my vote is my power. And that if I'm not educated, if I don't educate myself and know exactly what I'm doing when I go vote, then it's fine to sit back and not do it. He'd rather people make that choice than to just go vote party. And he's way more eloquent than I am. And I think he can go buy the hardcore history sets now. I mean, when I say buy it, it's worth the money. He does, like when he did World War II, it's about 8 months long, and each episode is about 3 hours, and it's sound effect, and you're just, it's better than any History Channel documentary I've ever heard. He is amazing. So there's that. Shut everybody down. Random kid asks, where to block? Okay, I'll answer that. That's not what I want to pull up. Can I listen to bear crawling anywhere? I don't know yet. Because the way feeds were done then, the way hosting was done, it's not like it's on a website somewhere right now. However, Hugh did mention to me last night the Wayback Machine, so I'm going to try to go and see if I can. And Hugh was my producer for a long time and one of my show partners for a while, so he's going to dig through some old hard drives and see what he may have available. But there's a project I'm going to start working on with that, but we're going to try to collect up a bunch of old shows and put them out. Why did you start podcasting? Because I was in a band, and it's a lot harder to get on the stage as a rock and roll singer than it was as a speaker. I could just do it while I was at work, which I did a lot of, and it just resonated. It was just, I can create, nobody can stop me. No, there's no set history. It's not be an internet radio station. It's not, oh, I got to play 1,000 bars and I've got to get this right thing, and I've got to open for this band. I got to sleep in a van with 5 guys for 6 months. And this plays into for bands, right? Joe's making a big eyes, but when you're trying to get your band off the ground, you have no money. You're doing East Coast tour. You're in a cargo van with your gear and no money for a hotel. My buddies did it all the time. I was like, yeah, I gotta have showers. I gotta have air conditioning. That's not life for me. And that,
well, I mean, even your cousin is on the tour bus all the time. That's not the best.
And now it's a nice tour bus.
It is a nice tour bus, but it's still, but it's still super cramped.
Yeah, you're not wrong. That's right. You went with me to that too. Yes, I did want to be a radio host when I was a kid, random kid. I love that idea of being a DJ, of hosting talk shows. So he's throwing out a lot of great questions here. So I started podcasting because nobody could stop me is an easy answer. And it just landed. It just resonated. I was always built to talk, and now I could just talk about whatever I wanted and nobody could say anything to me. I mean, they could say something, but it's not going to, you can't, I mean, back then, especially, you can't cancel anybody. You can't stop it. It's just, I'll just put it out there. I'm paying for my hosting. There's nothing you can do. And it was just a freedom. Kurt, looks like you had something to say there.
No. I mean, it makes sense back then, because really, even at the beginning, people were doing blogs more than, and blogs were pretty popular, way more than podcasting at the time. And really, I mean, podcasting was just a natural progression from radio. I mean, really, it was a way for people on the internet to be able to do radio in their own way.
Yeah, it was more evergreen radio.
Yeah, I mean, if you remember back during the Live 365 days.
Yep.
That's where Scott got his start as well, and just you know,
Extra Life Radio.
yeah, and really just watch it, just listening to, and it was cool because it was like this streaming radio program done by just some dude.
Yeah.
And some of them were really entertaining, some of them were really terrible. But the fact that you could actually find that and listen to that pretty much when you wanted to, it was pretty remarkable back then.
And
Now,
funny enough,
No, go for it. I'll ask my.
bouncing off of that, I did some live 365 stuff. And even as I came to podcasting and connecting in with Adam Curry and the No Agenda Network, we were doing live record. I loved live all the time. So we were doing live recordings of just about everything. They actually had a fan who ran a radio station in Iowa or somewhere and actually picked up the stream. So a number of the shows that I got to help on, and that weren't necessarily my shows, I was on a radio station in Iowa somewhere doing this thing. So it's just a really cool thing. What you got, Joe?
I was just gonna say you skipped this one, least
I
favorite
was
guest.
getting back to it.
Now, were you afraid because Hugh's actually here in the chat? You just didn't want.
That's a story I didn't tell last night. Is I fired Hugh live on the air because I fired him 2 days before, and that knucklehead didn't get it, and he tried to show up to my show, and so for an hour and a half we went at it where I fired him, no holds barred, every 4-letter word I wanted was out there, and then that was on a Friday. We should do it on Fridays, and then on Tuesday I showed up for the road show. He was like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "Dude, that was that show. That's business. This is this show. This is your show. If you don't want me here, I won't be here." But that was that show. He was okay, and yes, and he's still here. So now I was getting to let's do a quick overview. So you can go to youtube.com/DC. I forget which
Digital
one
media track.
I think it's digital media track. I think it's DC digital media on that one. You won't go wrong by putting in digital media track to find it. If you don't do the slash, if you just Google or YouTube on search DC digital media track, it's there. And long stories are told there. The moniker came from, I think I got my first or second podcast award nomination, and I was still working with two guys, one Brandon. So of course I celebrate and send them the picture and all that, and something along the lines of, man, Big C, I was going by Big C back then. Big C is just, he is hungry. He is going to be this guy. He is a rock god on the rise, and I went done and done. And from when I started bear calling, it was the rock god of podcasting, and it just went from there. And so that's where that came from. It's much more entertaining to hear them share it with me. And Phil's like, "Why did you unleash this shaved Wookiee onto the world?" And then we talked about how I picked them up as grown men in Vegas. I literally stood up and held him up in my arms, and we took a picture somewhere. Least favorite guest, I do not remember his name. But our Morning Mon and I were doing Success Freaks, and just like Joe and Kurt and I have talked about, at some point you get to a point with your show, and it's right to try to get other guests on to help grow that reach and that awareness. So they'll tell their audience, "Hey, I was on Wise and Nerdy and it was amazing. Check them out," and that kind of thing. Sharing audiences. So with Success Freaks, we've gotten to that point, and now there's a site called Podcast Guest List, but I think it was just Radio Guest List at the time, or there was a site that was separate called Radio Guest List that we signed up for, and we were doing motivational things. So let me tell you, when you talk about people trying to market themselves and get on shows, it's motivational stuff. Oh no, Mando was not a guest queue. Let's not. Oh, Joe, you reminded me. Okay, all right, Joe reminded me of something. So, but first, no, this is worse. And you'll know why when I finish the story. This is worse. So my biggest stance on any show I do is you come on as a human being. I know you have a book to push. I know you have a TV show you developed. I know you have XYZ to promote. That's why you're trying to do a million of these shows. However, when you're here with me, you showed audience who you are, because I knew from the get-go the way to be successful is to show your heart and who you are, and people will buy what you're selling. And it's worked. I mean, we've built up the digital media track. I've had a career in digital media for a while just doing that. Unfortunately, like, I never sold my book, which I wrote a book. I never sold my book on my shows. But this guy came on, and I told Morton, I was like, I don't know, man. The way he had us on his show, and he was doing that standard format. If you've ever heard of anybody doing a radio interview or a TV interview one way or the other, somebody sends a list of questions. So sometimes it's the guest going, I want you to ask me these questions. No, I am not doing that. That's no. Go take that. That's so static and dumb. But a lot of people who are just cutting content for content's sake, or that's how they think that's they do. Sometimes it's the other way. A show will send you, these are the questions we want to ask. You can say no to any of these, just to let you know a heads up. So there's no gotchas, right? I'm not a gotcha kind of guy, and you can't get me. You can ask me a random question. I'll answer honestly, and it might embarrass me. And it might make me feel like crap for a minute, but I'll answer honestly. And so we went on this guy's show. He's like, what's the 10 questions you want me to ask? We're like, no, just talk to us. Here's what we do. Here's some bullet points of what we do. And he didn't know how to function. It was kind of boring. I did it in my car, waiting to go pick up a Nintendo Wii U. Maybe I think it was when the Wii U came out. The Wii, one of those two. I had pre-ordered it. I was going to pick it up, and I got there early, and I did the show from my car in the parking lot, waiting for it to Best Buy to open or whatever. But when this guy came on our show, our whole thing with Success Freaks is it's the other side of live, right? It is, we're sharing our hearts. We're helping people. We're not afraid to disagree, but we try to find middle ground together. We try to see different perspectives. And this guy just wanted to come in and be clickbait. That wasn't a term then, but he wanted to be human clickbait and like throw out, oh man, I don't remember who was running in politics, but he just kept trying to like, no, we don't do politics. And I would ask a question, and we're doing it live. And just like now, I had multiple screens. And at some point in the show, I got so mad. You see me just do this and pick up my controller on camera and just start playing a game. And I messaged Morning in like the situation where we have a private chat. I messaged Morning and went, you handle it. Get him off the show. I'm done. And I just sat there, and because he just wouldn't listen. He just kept trying to push his book, trying to push politics, trying to push all this divisive crap. And nowadays, I'm going to play with you guys, okay? But nowadays, we're like, yep, nope, hey, we're good. I'm sorry that he did that to our audience, and we're not going to have him back. We just kick him off like I just kicked Kurt off for the show. But yeah, that was the worst. Second was, I'll say it. I have nothing to lose. Early days of Pokemon Go podcast, we were doing the same thing, reaching out to other content creators. And a guy named Bagel Nude come on, and I don't know what energy drink he infused in his veins before he came on, but he was just like, and me and Joe were like, oh my god, this is the worst show we've
talking
ever done.
over us, and
it was so bad.
Well, and half the stuff he said about the game was wrong.
Oh right, yeah. And Joe kept correcting him. I'm like, that's not even, I mean, my shtick is to get it wrong but be funny. You're being serious. It was crazy, man.
So you're saying his situational awareness really wasn't quite there.
No, it wasn't. And
he really wasn't.
I hate to bash on the guy, but
he got kind of kicked from every creator Pokemon group out there.
Yeah, and I tried listening to his podcast as well, but what he tried to do was set up a Yeti mic with an omnidirectional setup, because him and his host shared the same mic between them on a table. And so
if you do it right, that can be done easily.
It can.
But he didn't do it right.
Most people don't.
Yeah.
It was not the Yeti mic is a great starter mic. I mean, it was at the time. We'll go with that. Nowadays, there's a lot better options. Yeah. But yeah, no, he was not using it how it should be used.
So I'm gonna throw it to Kurt. Go ahead and roll the dice, Joe. We'll finish up with Kurt. I have a story to tell if you don't have a question. Do you have a question about any of those days?
So the only question that I had is, did you do any merchandising back then?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
I got
Randy was showing off shirts and stuff.
Yeah, I had. Before we end the show, I'll share. I had some pictures set up for last night. Before we end the show, I'll pull up the pictures. I had posters that I'm still proud of to this day, because there was a mutual fan of two guys and us that worked in a print shop. He goes, send me your picture. I'll print the stuff and you just pay shipping. And so I had actually today, August 8th, 2009, I had my 100th episode party where I said, you know what? And this is a world where people didn't do this. I mean, I was way have everything everywhere. I just thought, why not? I'm like, I'm going to have a party at my house. everybody's invited who listens to this show. Here's my address. Here's where I live. Here's the time of the party. Just come on. And thought nobody will come. Maybe like Hugh couldn't make it down because he was in Rhode Island, and at the time it just didn't work out. 2 guys from Washington weren't able to get off, but there were people who took their vacation days, got on a plane, and came to my freaking bought hotel rooms and came to my house for this party. I have some pictures I'll share of that. And yeah, we gave out shirts to everybody. I had posters I signed for everybody because I'm that guy. I just went and pre-signed them before anybody came so they wouldn't have to ask because they wouldn't ask. Yeah, man.
As long as you recognize that.
Yeah. I still have.
Wait. Did you sign it Big C?
Probably. Yeah, probably. That was though. I thought I was Big C, the Rock God of podcasting at that time.
So,
but now it changed.
So I had actually a secondary question.
Okay,
because I did a little Googling. Because I'm a good little Googler. Was there an aspect of Bear Crawling Nation called the Road Show?
Yeah, that was with you. Yeah, and we had a thong. We had a thong that we sold.
Yeah, okay. All right. There may or may not be episodes that are out there.
Oh, yeah, no, the Road Show still has stuff out there for sure.
Yeah.
Hugh was smarter than I was and kept some more archives up. I'm always been, and to my detriment, I've always been an in the now kind of guy. Like, I do it now. I don't look back. I feel like, so say I've had 14 failed shows or whatever the number is. I retired shows. Like, I use them for a time. I grew into a different space. I feel good about what I did. I retired them. They didn't fail. I just went, I'm moving on to something different. And but Hugh, for the longest time, actually, there's an archive of recorded road shows that he did after. I forget why we ended up stopped working on that show together because my life changed. It wasn't a fallout or anything. And he went on with another friend of his, and they've recorded a ton of episodes that just never got posted. I don't know how many hours of recordings he has with his friend that they did that. But yeah, I wasn't going to name her, all right, Kelly. I know her name, but yeah. And we totally did the road show as a goof, and people actually liked it. It really was this. We called it the road show because I wanted to talk to somebody. The car I drove didn't have a radio or anything in it, but I had a cell phone and I had a Bluetooth headset. And I wanted to be entertained on my ride home. Hugh had no life, so he was at home doing nothing. So I'm like, hey, entertain me. And he goes, hey, do you want me to record this? I'm like, why not? And we just had this free conscious thinking, talking about whatever BS thing. There was literally no topics to it. It's just whatever's going on today in our minds. And we did my hour ride home. And in fact, there's some episodes where I ended up being at work late. So I used a work phone, and I make jokes about whoever the IT guy is who's listening back to the work recordings. You're welcome. But yeah, the road show is out there. Is it hugh4ri.com or is that where you found it, or where'd you find it?
It was under Bear Crawling Nation, the Blogspot blog.
Wow. Did you hit play to make sure they even still worked?
No, I could because
Okay.
I don't care. But it appears that you used to post on Ustream.
Oh yeah, that we were there as one of the first. That was one of our first hosting.
Was that before or after you went to the shall we say softcore website called Stick'em?
Oh no, it was. I don't remember if it was before or after. It'd be awesome. But Stick Cam, thank you very much.
Oh yeah, okay.
We were right in between all the naked cam girls, and I got an audience. I don't know if it's the audience I wanted, but I was doing anything I could. I was on Gizmo, was one of the platforms that we used. Gizmodo. What? Oh man, Hugh mentioned it last night. I don't remember the name of it. I thought, oh yeah, I remember. We were on Justin TV before it became Twitch TV, live stream before it was Ustream before it became live stream, which is a company now. Yeah, I was on. I did not get. No, you're right. It was a softcore porn site, but it was free, and I could put out video and people could watch live. Yeah. And I dug it. As Joe said, that's probably my next tattoo. My life is rated R. I go where I can go. Hugh mentioned how about the time you smashed a wireless mouse live? Project Gizmo before Skype. We were doing live connections. Yes. I was telling actually my team about that today because I get I get funny when I get mad now because I don't like the rage and what it was doing to me. But Kurt, Joe, you get, you're working on a project, you're doing something, and your hard drive melts down or something else happens. I don't remember exactly what happened, but something went wrong. But it didn't affect my recording somehow, or I got something back up. I swapped. I don't know what I did, but yeah, I'm up in that same upstairs studio, and I have a wireless mic, and I'm and a wireless mic, and I'm just pacing and talk, and I chunk that thing. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs about how raging I am, and I chunk that thing across the room, and it shatters. I'm like, rah, 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 rah. Oh, bleep! I just broke my mouse, and most downloaded episode at the time ever until Ibn and I got into like year 2 of FDH. That record stood. I mean, it was people who never ever listened to the show again downloaded that episode because their friend says, "Oh my god, this dude's hilarious, he loses his crap on air," and they comment, "Oh my god, that was so funny," and then not download any other episodes. So I had like thousands of downloads for me smashing this wireless mouse and nothing else on that show. Then went back to like 20. I was like, oh, you're killing me. I got some other stories, but yeah, let's go ahead and not make this about me all night. But I love sharing these. I love sharing that journey. Like when I asked Kurt about his program, I love hearing those things about your journey with the game show. So I like being able to share that stuff. It's fun.
Roll that
Time
dice.
for a commercial break.
All right. Let's see. I do want to get a shout out to Be Awesome Together, which is the name of the show I did last night. It's on the DC Digital Media track. It is so much fun, and it's just getting bigger and better. And we've been doing it all year since last Dragon Con, and there's a chance it's going to get even bigger and better next year. So, Kurt, I need to actually get you on that show as a guest after the con.
Whenever
Still
you
won't be
like.
finding the stories because you just want it too bad, baby.
No, I've given up on that.
Oh, well, now I'll have you on. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
But hey,
I'm not sure I'm available.
beyond promoting that, go to patreon.com/wise_n_nerdy and become part of our family over there. We're going to be putting up some MP3 packs that you can download as patrons and make them your ringtones and whatnot, if you will. So Kurt missed that part. We'll talk about it after, but let's chill out for a minute.
Do you like talking about Charles as much as Charles likes talking about Charles?
There's nobody in the world that
Well,
does that.
You too can talk about Charles for only $15 a month at patreon.com/wiseandnerdy. That's patreon.com/wiseandnerdy. Code name Charles.
or you can talk about him for free if you call in wiseandnerdy.com/calldad.
Oh, dang.
Oh,
I like
Now
this
on,
one.
Speak pipes are gonna cost.
$2.99 a minute. Go back to my old days, Kurt. Send us a speak pipe. It's only $2.99 a minute.
oh.
You can have Joe_Candy_Ard, or you can have VO by Kurt.
Are you a lonely nerd? Would you like to talk to other lonely nerds?
True
Call
story.
1-900-WISE-AND-NERDY.
What if, could we get a 1-900 number? I don't think anybody would call it, but can we get one?
I don't know.
That would be something else. Charles on OnlyFans for OnlyFans with a thing. True story, Kurt. I think you were here at my house for it. I don't because
I was not. You can't prove anything. There's been no video.
No, it was as OnlyFans was up and coming, and we had an honest discussion. As we do after the con, we talk about just thoughts and different things, and we're talking about it's like, you know what? Because I just finished, I think that year I had been really, really encouraging because every year a word kind of comes out that is a theme of the show. Like this year, it will be awesome together, but that's something that we've built over the year. But normally it's just something inspiring. That was one of them inspiring, and it just kind of underlines the whole show. It just comes out, and whatever it was inspirational that year. And so we're talking about OnlyFans, like, and Mike Cagnola and Steph was here that year because I was talking to Mike specifically, like, yeah, man, if I was going to do an OnlyFans, it wouldn't be sexual at all. Just people going. I use Mike as an example because he's right in front of me. Like, hey, Mike, man, you are freaking awesome. what you did with this project, that was amazing. His eyes got me. He's like, I would pay for that. Oh my God, I would pay for that. And I was like,
Motivational speaker.
I thought about doing it. Just extreme
so
positivity, right?
OnlyFans wouldn't work in the South. It's too hot. You definitely need an AC to go with that fan.
That's true. That's true. Kelsey, come get your boy. All right, what do we got? What's the next segment, sir?
Onlyfans.com/affirmations.
That's a good one. It'd be. Well, I can't say what it'd be because somebody might think it's funny to go
Rock God of
up that.
affirmations.
Council of Dads.
Okay, Joe, you put this one down. What you got here?
I did. What major institution has gone away that you never thought would? I'm not sure who put that on the backlog, but I liked it.
I wrote that. I don't know, a long time ago when we were on some subject that random kid had tossed to us, and we came across the possibility of things going away, and like with AI or something. And there's been so many major institutions, stores, banks, whatever, schools. I mean, whatever you grew up with that you're like, man, this is a forever thing, and it's not. So that was kind of the idea behind it, is of what can you guys remember that you thought at some earlier part of your life, this is forever, and then all of a sudden it's like, holy crap, I never thought that would fail or go away.
The recent one that makes me think of immediately is Toys R Us.
Oh, okay. All right.
As a kid, I never thought that Toys R Us would go away, but as an adult, walking in there and seeing the prices, I'm less surprised. But as a kid, I never thought it would go away.
Kelsey, gotcha. She's on my team now. She's Team Charles. I love it. Her and Jebediah, my two favorite people now. Yeah, Kurt, you were, because I'm older than Joe, and you're just slightly older than me, so we have a little bit different perspective of it. But yeah, I mean, Joe's right there with it. But I kind of grew up a Toys R Us kid. Were you in that? Would they come along early enough for you to hit that generation?
Yeah. So Toys R Us, I think, started not when I was a real young kid, but soon thereafter, and before that, it was a toy store called Child World, which was a major chain, but it went away for a while, and then Toys R Us hit, and Toys R Us hit big, because really prior to that, it was the Sears catalog. That's where Sears is where I played my first Vectrex.
I was thinking about Sears. Yeah,
Sears is the only store that I knew that had Vectrex on display, and you could play it. They also white labeled their own Atari 2600, which was weird.
That's weird. Nope, that's not no camera.
And now it's the Joe Show.
It's Joe. That came from Sears. This big 4.5 foot tall Cookie Monster. That's a Oshkosh Bagosh Sears display. So yeah.
I'm trying to think of other things that are just big. I think one of the things that probably people never would have expected, honestly, was video rentals really kind of going away. And look, you can throw your red box at me, but
they're dying. They're gone.
Yeah, I mean, we still got red boxes around here, but it doesn't matter, right? Because they're all but irrelevant.
Yeah.
And so
you mean the physical going as it was an adventure, right? Your Friday night, you would go and pick out your movies.
Yep.
And he'd be so angry because there was a whole lot of covers and no movie there to rent because they were already rented out.
But also, you're smart. Go ahead, Kurt.
I was just gonna say, also, you never really knew what was coming out when.
I love that so much, though.
And so you'd walk in on a Friday night and go,
"This came out?
What? Blade Runner's out?"
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I got that for the weekend. Yeah.
You'd make, if you were good, you'd make friends with the people. I'm like, Phil, because Phil used to work at Blockbuster. Hey, Phil, could you hold me a copy of that? And they'd like you'd say yes, and of course they wouldn't. But if you're really smart, you go in and say, okay, I can only get 2 movies tonight, but Sunday when I bring these back, I want to get another movie. And you take the movie you want and hide it in another section behind a different cover. And if the lazy employees, which sometimes they were, they would not go and find it, and you go back on Sunday and pick out that movie because you saved it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
man.
Yeah, and you had to watch. You had to plan ahead of time because often it was a 1 or 2 day rental. You had to bring it back or incur late fees and.
Okay, so so just going to the video store was an adventure in and of itself, not just for that, but also the Forbidden Curtain.
So Joe, this is this room that other people go into. Not us, but other people.
And Blockbuster didn't have that. In fact, they edited their movies, which was also weird.
I did not actually know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, they had specially edited versions of some movies, which was always strange, right? One, that it was a thing, and two, they had that much power. Because these were officially edited. And so, very strange.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays, people don't edit stuff, but there was always a TV version out there for people to watch.
Yep.
Or radio edited.
Cut. Yeah.
Yeah. Or radio edited music. That's not much of a thing these days either, as far as
you know what? I would actually it still is. Yeah.
A little bit.
CeeLo Green. Forget You.
Gonna ride around town.
Great song, but the fact that there's a radio edit is a big deal. Hugh actually, and God, I hate to give him credit for anything, but Hugh hit one major one. Oh, actually, Random Kid did it first. All right, cool. Radio Shack.
Right.
As a young nerd,
yeah.
So one of my favorite things to do on the weekend is I would go to my little 5,000 person town's dump, and we called it a dump. It's not a transfer station. It was a dump. And we would go and find old electronics that people would throw away, radios or whatever. And then we would bring them home, clean them up, see if we could fix them. And if we needed parts, we'd go to Radio Shack, and you could buy all the components you wanted at Radio Shack.
Yeah.
And they were in stock at the store. I mean, it wasn't having to order from DigiKey later or anything like that. It was really, I mean, one of my favorite toys as a kid wasn't even really a toy. It was a 150-in-1 electronics kit. And it was this board that you got, and it had like this giant book of projects, and you can make everything from a radio to a light sensitive alarm or whatever, and you would just hook up all the components on this board with wires that they would include, and it was awesome. And so that's how we learned early electronics. But Radio Shack, big deal.
When they were going out of business, my father-in-law took me over there 2 different trips, because he's a big nerd and he knows I do all this stuff. And at the time I was on the hustle, so I was always going out with lights and sound and doing live gigs. And he basically gave me carte blanche, like, buy everything you want. And he picked up everything he wanted. And we came home with just bags of HDMI cables and Cat 6 cables and pieces of stuff that I knew we could use. And honestly, some of that to this day is still in a sealed bag, because I never had a need for it, but I had it if I needed it, and we got it so cheap. But that's the thing too. Radio Shack was so, at the end, was so expensive.
Yeah,
that was like, holy cow, I'd rather just go to Amazon for a quarter of the price and wait 3 days for it to come in. And I think that's what killed them. My thing is,
that's probably what killed Borders too. That
well, I was going to mention something like that, Books A Million and Borders.
Yeah, Books A Million. Yep.
I never thought bookstores would go, because it was such a great, again, like going rent a video. It was amazing to go to a mall. Typically is where they were in my area. Sometimes they're just fully freestanding, which some still are around. There's still a few. But that's where you could just go read books, for brand new books, for hours, whereas libraries might not have the brand new book to check out and those kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised Barnes and Nobles is still hanging on. with all of the other bookstores that have shut down.
But look what they had to do, right? They had to open up the cafe and make it bigger.
Jittery Joe's.
Yep.
They do games and toys and puzzles like nobody's business.
And collectibles.
And collectibles. They leaned hard into that. I'm a little surprised.
They were real big on CDs for a long time.
Oh,
but I
you
think
have CDs?
Yeah.
I think they phased a lot of that out. They have CDs in general.
Right.
So, Kelsey, I told your husband when y'all came to the Dragon Con event at Dave & Buster's, there's a really cool mall attached to this, including a bookstore right up here. And he's like, nah, I hate my kids. We're going home. So I tried, Kelsey. I tried. But no, every year that we go, Dragon Con doesn't have their thing there every year, but at least once a year, my family goes up it's now called Sugarloaf Mall. And it was originally built by Discover Card. It was Discover Mall. And they tried to sell you credit cards all around the mall. But it's still a decent building. And yeah, they have a bookstore, and that's what I'll do. I will go get a nice coffee from Jittery Joe, sit down at the table while the rest of my family goes and digs through manga, whatever, collectibles. And we always come away with something. Like my wife always gets some kind of vinyl record, or we had this really cool wooden graphic from Disney. That's a thing of Maleficent, but it's really Maleficent was a Sleeping Beauty. I don't care about Maleficent. I don't remember who the Disney princess was, but it's like a picture of Sleeping Beauty. But if you see
Sleeping Beauty,
yeah, well,
what?
Okay, so that was the behind the curtain part of Barnes and Nobles. Joe, you asked, you set me up, buddy. You just didn't let me go on. But anyway, the picture is like these trees and woods, but as the trees form, you see the outline of Maleficent's horns and face. It's a really cool piece of art. We got that from Books A Million. So they're still out there, but they're rare. But like libraries too, a lot of libraries have closed across the nation. That's one thing Georgia did right back in the late 70s. They invested into a network of libraries across the state, because we had a lot of different artists and authors from Georgia that they wanted to celebrate then, and it just today still stands. They still fund it. It's got all kind of endowments, but I know not everybody has that. Go ahead, Joe. Kurt.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, so we should definitely talk about libraries on another episode, because it's a much bigger discussion, and they're, just as a little preview, much cooler than people think.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely,
and a really a treasured resource that we take for granted. But not tonight.
Not tonight.
And just as an aside, because segues are for kids, I pasted a picture of the electronics kit that I had as a kid into our Discord.
Nice. I'll check that out. The thing that I was surprised went away, and it's not the name brand, but I know those of you who are old enough will know, but it is truly the thought process of must-see TV, of having to culturally be at your TV set at a certain time and watch it, knowing that your whole town, most of the people you go to church with, whatever, a lot of people are watching this thing. Lonesome Dove, one of my favorite Westerns of all time, because that was one of the first times I was old enough to realize we're watching this. And it's like remember back then it was a miniseries, right? It's like an 11-part miniseries or 7-part, whatever. And so it's this movie that they break up over nights, and every night at 8 p.m. you'd watch 2 hours of it because it's commercials in there. And Wednesday night you go to church, like, oh, everybody's talking about Lonesome Dove, and then you finish it out, and you do that. And yeah, of course, NBC did coin the phrase must-see TV, and it was during the Friends era, which still stands today. But you had to be at your TV or you did not see it. And I just remember the whole thing. They were always 45 seconds to a minute long, if not a little bit longer. So commercials came on. One of you would run to the bathroom, the other one would run to the kitchen to start the popcorn, and somebody would stay there and they'd do this. Show's back on. And then you come burning back in because you can't miss it because there's no recording.
Jumping over the couch to get back in spot. Yeah.
Unless you're privileged enough to have a VCR, there is no recording it. And it really was a really cool part of that era of knowing that you shared something with the rest of the world.
Yeah, a lot of people called it event TV.
Okay.
Afterwards as well, because like things like you talk about that, and that's for like current stuff, but also things like The Wizard of Oz and Sound of Music
Oh yeah.
played one night
Yep.
all year long, and that was the only way you saw
Yeah.
it. And so you would always watch it as a family. Wonderful World of Disney on Sunday nights.
Yes.
It was.
I pretended to be
a
sick
thing.
so many Sunday nights because it come on at 7 when church was still going. And I wanted to watch Disney instead.
Yep. It was a thing.
Yeah,
and
it
really
was.
it was a family time.
I remember vividly when Star Trek Voyager debuted, and my buddy Douglas, who some of you have met if you've been in my house after Dragon Con.
He owes me money.
Yeah, I bet he does. We were I was 17 and he was 16, and I think that or 16 and 15 when Voyager came on. It was a debut, and we had 20 minutes before it came on. It's live TV, right? No recording it. And he goes, "Oh man, my brother at home who's disabled." It's not how he said it, but I'm just painting a quick picture. My brother is at home is disabled. Wouldn't it be fun to watch it with him? Well, let's do it. And I went, it's supposed to be a 25-minute ride from my house to his house. I did it in 18 and a half minutes. So we walked in right before the opening scene came up, and we watched it together. And it was just a thing. And I missed that a little bit. I love that I can just watch TV whenever I want, and I can binge it. I'm great with that. But that was just something that, no, this is forever. Nothing's forever. It just isn't, So any other ones y'all can think of? Those are all good.
Yeah, I'll say one that will bring some emails probably. The work ethic.
Oh my God, Kurt. I will fight you, Boomer, on all day long. Who raised these kids? We raise these kids. So don't blame it on some generational thing.
I didn't say anything. I didn't list any ages or anything. I just said work ethic.
Hey,
that's all.
That's what we call old school email, where you just spout off right there in somebody's face. You didn't do it anonymously in the chat room. All right. Joe, what are you going to do right now?
Roll the dice.
There you go.
Sorry, I need to.
Roll the dice. Oh my God. I don't even remember what that context was where I said that.
I think we were going on and on with jokes, and you couldn't take it anymore, so you yelled at us. Oh, all right.
Dad joke.
Charles
Perfect
just
timing.
takes
I take off my headphones.
off his headphones.
That joke. Good.
Oh man,
Hey, look, world famous Sticky Cheesecake shows up with his 20 followers on Twitter. What are you doing? Get out of here with that nose waving crap.
And that's the bad dad joke.
Awesome.
No.
Perfect.
What is Kurt's favorite laundry detergent? You want to know? I figured it out.
No, I don't.
It's Gains.
Because you're gaining muscle and loose skin. Yeah. Thank you, Kurt. Thank you. Oh no, Joe, how dare you put my laugh on a button? How dare you break the integrity of the show and lie to our fans?
Look, I am self-deprecating as all get out, but that wasn't good.
All right. I'll give it.
But what does Charles think about it?
That was a good bad dad joke. I hate you. I hate that. I got you one. I finally brought one to the table. What kind of bee doesn't fly right?
Left bee?
No. What kind of bee doesn't fly right? Kobe.
Oh
no.
There it is.
No.
There it is.
No.
Oh.
No.
Well, Joe.
No.
How do I?
Bad daddy.
I thought my work ethic comment was going to get some emails. Yeah.
Oh,
boy.
too soon.
Oh, boy.
How do I do car maintenance? Well, let's clarify this. Is this how do we maintain our car, or is this actually how do we get our hands dirty?
Whatever you want it to be, Charles. This is your topic.
Oh, I put that in to ask somebody else because I do. I can tell you, I pay for it. I watch the little numbers. I pay somebody to change my oil. I rotate my tires. I do an inspection on my car every 50,000 miles. That's what I do. But I pay for it. So hopefully somebody else can tell me what they do.
I can change my wipers.
Yep.
I can change my headlights if I can find them.
Okay, I've done that.
Well, because like on my Prius, when I had my Prius, you couldn't actually get to the lights. Like the actual official way to replace the headlights, take off the front quarter panel.
Oh.
And I'm like, no, that's dumb. I'm not doing that.
That's super dumb.
Yeah. And so with my new car, you can actually reach the bulb and you can take it out. I can do that. I can add wiper fluid. I can change my air filter.
I haven't found where I keep forgetting to look for where my air filter
and I can
is.
usually jump start the car if I have.
Usually.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and everything you're doing, if people don't know how to do it, they're relative.
Read it, Joe. Read it, Joe. Read it in her voice. I dare you. Read it in her voice. Come on.
There's a light bulb stuck in my van headlight area because Joe dropped it.
That's a great bad joke.
So she's not wrong. So she needed her light bulb replaced, and I didn't know exactly where it was. So I looked up on Google, on YouTube specifically. I was like, okay, on this make and this year, how do you change the light bulb? And you can do that for all the different maintenance, the relatively small maintenance that Kurt was just stating. You can do that yourself for way cheaper than taking it in to do. Like changing a light bulb, they're going to charge you like $50 just to change a light bulb, whereas you go buy a light bulb for $6 for a 2-pack and do it yourself. And so, yes, my wife is correct. I had a 2-pack. I pulled out. I found where it was. I pulled it out. I disconnected it. I put the new one in, but I didn't push it in enough. So when I went to stick it in, it popped off.
We're talking light bulbs, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So
I'm behaving. Kurt's making faces.
On my model, you have to push it in until it clicks, and I didn't push the light bulb in until it clicked it sufficiently. So when I tried to put it back in the socket, it popped out, and now unless I would have fully take off the panel, Kurt disappeared. Unless I want to fully take off the panel, that light bulb will be in there for a very long time. So, yeah. Say what you're gonna say.
Roll that dice.
It's when Brian gets on something, and I can read his mind. It was good. And Joe saw.
How about you, Charles?
Going.
How about you? Oh crap! You already said something.
So in general, though, I'm glad you brought up some of that stuff. Yeah, I love YouTube. I stripped down. I stripped down. Yeah. I'll finish that thought. Look, y'all know me enough that when a show's brought to you by the letter Scotch, the thoughts are going to be a little disjointed. Okay. Hold on now. I've established I'm not a mechanical guy, right? It's not in my nature to take something apart and put it back together again. However, I had this motorcycle before, one of my first motorcycles I had, and it got to a point where I forget what the issue was, but there's this issue. So it sat in my garage for a long time, and I didn't want to sell it. And I had time and energy in my hands. So I said, I will try YouTube. And sure enough, there was a video of a guy who had the same problem with his bike, and it showed how to strip it down of all the parts. Thank you, Kurt, and put it back together. I will say this. I did it successfully. If you consider I only had 2 screws left over and I didn't know where they went, and the bike started. It would not start before. And so whatever I did to fix with the carburetor and other stuff, it worked. I was very proud of myself. Then I turned around and sold it for what I paid for it. But in general, yeah, light bulbs, I can change a tire, for sure.
Yeah. And in all seriousness, I mean, when it comes to car repair, honestly, even if you have to bring it to a shop, check out YouTube first, so you have an idea of what goes into making that repair, so that you can keep your mechanic honest, even if you're not going to do it yourself.
Oh, yeah, I've seen videos where they took it to somebody for a tune-up before taking it in for an oil change, just to see what the automotive shop would try to claim needed to be done.
Yep.
And so they did kind of an expose on all of these extra things that they tacked on just because they do that all the time.
And and I know it's a weird thing in some places, but if you don't have a window where I can watch the shop and see my car, I'm not leaving it with you. I might not say to watch, but if you don't provide me a way to do it, I hate Pet Boys. I will tell you that right now. We'll never have them as a sponsor because I think they're trash. And maybe you've had a good experience, but let me tell you, every experience I've had ended up something like this. I had a PT Cruiser. I loved my PT Cruiser. And my wife was driving it one day. Something went wrong. Her father had it towed to Pet Boys because for whatever reason, we never used them, never thought about them. We had our own mechanic. For whatever reason, he took it there. Sure, he's helping us out. He's paying for it, whatever. I never used them at the time. Didn't have any problem with them. Overpriced, tacked on things that I knew weren't necessary because, like I said, I loved my car. I might not be mechanical, but I learned about that car. I loved my PT Cruiser. Just shy of joining like the PT Cruiser fan club because I just don't do that kind of thing. That's like crazy. But I loved my car. And it tacked on this stuff and he paid for it without asking. I'm like, no, this is dumb. It's almost like clear undercoating. That's fake, man. But what killed me about Pet Boys, and it happened more than once, so we gave him a second shot, they did it again, is some dumb bleep. Instead of everybody's ever lifted up a car hood, even to this day, I haven't had a Tesla, so I'm assuming Tesla might not have it. Either it has it's fancy, it has hydraulics that hold it up, or it's this metal rod that has a hook on the end and you hook it into a spot on the hood and it holds the hood up. That's how you do it on pretty much every car in the freaking world. And some idiot didn't take the hook out and put it down. They I don't know how they did it, but they slammed it down and forced it shut. So when we got home and I wanted to see, because I'm like, no way they did this. I opened it up and I'm like, where's the rod? I can't. And I found it in where it would be in that position, but crumpled, where they'd obviously had four. How do you do that? Even they did it to my wife's van like 6 months later. They went to a different Pet Boys that her dad insisted, and I told I was like, I don't care if you're paying for it. We are never going there again. And that is a place that traditionally does not have windows where you can see what is going on with your car. If you got to hide it, I can't do it. It's crazy.
Yeah, we often go to Firestone to do our oil change. They take forever, but it is what it is. But it seems like every other time, either our windshield wiper fluid line is cut or it's been detached and it's just spraying under the hood whenever you try to activate it. And they fix it for free, but it's just like, can't you guys figure out how to close a hood without ruining?
I got you one better. When I had, he's now a director for me, but at the time he's lieutenant and earning his way up, and he was doing maintenance for my company, which is ambulances. Okay. He decided to take it from the place we had been using it because they were getting busier and busier, and it was harder to get our trucks back faster. And that's a thing for us. So he decided to try Pet Boys because they like sold him on this corporate, we'll take care of you, fleet maintenance, all this stuff, other stuff. We got tires changed. Simple, easy. On one of the rear tires, they didn't tighten any of the lug nuts. Literally, it's like put on and turn twice, and that's it. And the wheels almost literally fell off. And we had some very nice words for them. And we went up to corporate level, and they like, oh my God, we'll fix it. We're so sorry. And they ended up having to, because it did end up building the axle, they had to spend thousands of dollars to fix a problem because their idiot didn't. Who are you hiring? In these places? And so for how I do my maintenance is I will find a place that resonates. Like I want to talk to somebody, and then I hate that we have to do this. I really do. I think it's crap, but I've seen it happen. And then I will send a random female. If they haven't met my family, it'll be somebody from my family. If they have met my family, it'll be a female friend, to see how they talk to a female. And I left the place after working with them for like 6 years because they'd been so good to me and taught to us, and they understood that we were at times tight on cash, and they worked the important, like there's like, we don't feel great about putting this together this way, but come back in 2 weeks when you have a paycheck and we'll fix the rest of it. And I was like recommending them to everybody. And then my friend took her tire up there, and she's like, oh man, they talked to me like I was an idiot and they want to charge me this and this. Like, oh no, sure they didn't do that. And so she goes, watch. And she put me on, we went from work to there. I drove her down and she put me on speakerphone and had it in her pocket or whatever. And sure enough, they were talking to her like a moron. And then she came out and I went in, and they knew me, of course, and didn't know I was with her. And I brought a tire in, same tire. And they were like half price. Yeah, Charles, we got you. I mean, they treated me like a rock star because I got there when they first opened, all that jazz. And like, are you serious? And then that same guy, just, I don't know, if it wasn't the owner, but this guy that was running the shop, he kind of lost his mind and started upselling me on everything. I was like, dude, I've been 6 years. Don't do that. I'll spend the money I know is right. Don't do that. And then he talked to my wife like she was an idiot. Like, there's nothing wrong with your tire. And she came home and sent me a picture on her phone. And there's obviously a big screw in the side of her tire. and that's, we were done. And so you have to find people you trust. And just because you've trusted them for, in my case, 6 years, doesn't mean they won't change. So you definitely have to find somebody. Are you guys a fan of shade tree mechanics or portable mechanics, if you will, mobile mechanics?
I am not, but that's just me.
I'm not
Because I always
familiar with
think that it's going to be a fly by night, scheme.
Yeah.
That it's like people selling meat out of the back of their trucks.
I did that for a minute. For a day. I did it for a day. That's a story for another time. No, I'm with you. Now, there are legit businesses that make it their business to be mobile. Usually they will call themselves a mobile mechanic, and they'll have a name brand it might be like Kurt's Mechanics, but it is a legit business website. They have something to lose. But for the most part, hey, I got this, but it's called Shade Tree Mechanic because you park your vehicle under the tree and old Bubba will come out of his house and just tinker on it all afternoon under the shade tree. I can't do that either. I need somebody that can stand behind their work. And Charles pulls up in a white van and want to buy some meat. And with that, I think we're going to go home, everybody. That's been the show. I love you all. This scotch has been great. Let's do more next week.
Follow these nerdy dads on social media. Charles at Rock God of Podcasting. Joe at Joseph_Ard. Check out the website, wiseandnerdy.com. And as always, they may not be your father, but they'll always be your daddy.
Shut up, Mike.
FBI Black Herd everywhere!
Woo!
No funny clip? Oh my God, Joe, you just ruined the streak.
Charles loves streaking.
There you go.
And Joe loves